Welcome to the Miracle Mansion podcast. My name is Markkus. I'm head of treatment and counselling. Got my words stuck there. And I'm with. Do you want to tell them who you are?
I'm Laura.
Okay. And Laura, when did you come to Broadway Lodge?
I believe it was about the 13th of August 2019.
13th of August 2019. So firstly, let me just say to all the people that are watching this or potentially watching this, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Those comments are important. What we're doing is trying to encourage people to come to Broadway Lodge and get in the experiences of people that have been through here and how they got through their journey. So what we'll do, Laura, is we will talk about, firstly, what brought you to Broadway Lodge, your life during addiction, arriving at Broadway Lodge and what it was like for you doing treatment here, and then what you've been doing ever since. And I know you've been doing some fantastic stuff. And I have to say, as always, and I probably will say it to you to my dying day, right, to you and your partner, that you guys, I can't even tell you. I keep saying it every time I see you. I can't even tell you what you did for me here in helping me to change a treatment process here, which is just.
I said to Pete, I was like, he's going to bring us up, and he went, yeah, he probably will.
Well, because I can't even.
I know
it was fundamental to really changing the delivery of treatment at Broadway Lodge. You two, and I would just say thank you, and but we'll talk about it later. Anyway, so tell me about what addiction and life before Broadway. Tell me about your life and stuff.
Well, obviously I'm from Uxbridge.
Okay.
Youngest of, 4 girls, but one of my elder sisters is adopted.
Right, okay.
Not legally, but she came to live with us when she was 9 and kind of just never went home.
Yeah.
So I was 4 when she came into my life. So
right.
in my head, she's always been my sister.
Lovely.
And nothing really spectacular happened as me being a kid. I had a really good childhood, but I was just anxious all of the time. For, in my view, no particular reason.
Yeah.
Even at school, I find in addiction you hear a lot of stories where people say they just feel like they didn't belong, like something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And that's how it was for me. I remember being kind of at school, like looking out at all the other kids on the playground. Like, I don't understand kind of how to join in with that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was probably due to my older sisters, because I always wanted to be like them. I always wanted to be an adult. And I think that's where a lot of my drinking kind of came in. Because like drinking in my house was totally normal. And especially being around older people a lot of the time, it was a very normal thing for us to do. I'd have a beer at like the weekends and stuff, probably from when I was like 10, like after dinner or whatever.
Right, okay.
Maybe older, to be honest. I'm not really sure.
But so in some other countries, that's normalised. I mean, I know in France that parents introduce their children to wine and alcohol at an early age and get them used to the culture of drinking and stuff. So,
Yeah, I mean, it was totally normal.
Yeah.
In my brain anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the way I always thought about it.
Yeah.
I do remember being really quite young, actually, one Christmas, and my dad caught me climbing on top of the kitchen units, getting at my mum's Sheridans. Do you remember Sheridans?
No,
it's like
what?
Black, and it's like a liqueur that mixes together as it comes out.
Okay.
And I had to try and write an apology note. I couldn't spell alcohol, but I remember being so scared and writing it to tell my mum that I'd been nicking her alcohol.
Wow. What age was that, roughly?
I don't know. I must have probably been about 9.
Oh, Christ, you must have liked the taste of it.
Yeah, literally. This was it. It was. I just remember brandy cream and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, brandy cream. Yeah.
All of this stuff at Christmas.
Yeah.
And again, like drinking was just really normal.
Right.
Like for me,
Okay.
not in copious amounts, but whatever. And looking back now as well, that's a lot of my stuff to do with my eating. Kind of like went underway because I I used to knit crunchies from the local shop, and I used to hide them in my socks and like take them up to my room and like scoff them all and stuff. So now I look back, like all these little pieces of the puzzle kind of fit into place.
So you've been starting to put the pieces together and can see how things have started and how things materialise.
Definitely.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, I mean, apart from, I don't know, it's weird because my friend Isabel, her mum always used to say to me, like, you were always laughing as a kid, like you're always loud, you had a great laugh. But I don't remember it like that. I remember just being really scared, especially of teachers. I wasn't scared of my parents, but anyone in authority still, even to this day, still makes me a little bit nervous.
Really?
You make me a bit nervous, Markkus.
No way.
Yeah.
I never really but okay. I never really had that. Maybe, yeah, it was a little bit, wasn't it? A little bit, you being a little bit but nervous of me initially. But after,
I don't know why.
After a while, I think you had me in your pocket towards the end of treatment.
No, I know. But this is the thing.
Yeah.
It's just stuff that I can't really explain.
Yeah. Where did the anxiety come from, though? From your childhood?
I don't know. I remember being at school in year 2. And we had to write out the gingerbread man. And I couldn't spell it properly.
Okay.
And we had to hand it in before we went out for lunch. And I got so anxious about it. I'd ripped through 3 pieces of paper with my pencil, trying to scrub it all out and rewrite it and stuff, just because I was so scared of being told off by the teacher.
Oh, right, okay.
And just like little things like that. And that's always followed with me. And I'm not really sure why. But
what's it like growing up with 4 sisters?
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, me and my middle sister in particular were very, very close. People used to think we were twins, and she used to call me a handbag because I went with her everywhere.
Okay, cool.
And I wrote in French, actually, in year 8, we had to write about who we idolised, and I wrote about my sister.
Right.
And just like little things like that. But me and her were like inseparable.
Super tight.
Yeah. Super, super tight.
Yeah.
Because she always had the boyfriend, and she was always really popular at school, and all of the rest of it. Danny was a bit wayward. My adopted one, she used to smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was at the time or whatever. Then my eldest sister, Sarah, used to get bullied a lot, and she was the not so popular one.
Yeah.
And she used to pick on us all quite a lot.
Okay.
Growing up. But yeah, like...
It's funny you should say that, because I've got an adopted brother who was a friend that we just decided that because he was in a children's home, and we just decided that he needed to come and live with us, and he came and lived with us, and then that was it.
Yeah.
And he just grew up with us.
Well, that was it with Danny. Her mum died when she was 9 of cancer, but she went to school with my sisters. And her dad used to do a lot of touring with Shaking Stevens, so he was away a lot.
Yeah.
And she didn't like her babysitters, and there's a whole other backstory I won't go into with that.
Yeah.
And my house always being an open house, it was very much we'll just bring everyone home to mum and dad's. So it was she'll stay for a week, and she just kind of never left, really.
How wonderful.
Yeah.
Honourable shout out to your parents. That's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, we call her the non-biological.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we call her like washing detergent, she's non-bio, and all this kind of stuff.
Brilliant.
But
Brilliant.
No, it was a good laugh,
Yeah.
And like everything was all right. I very much, for me, my sisters were my rocks, I used to always go to my sisters. I could talk to my mum and dad about anything, but my sisters always got me out of the scrapes, as it were. If I got caught sneaking out or smoking weed or that kind of thing, it would be like, don't tell your mother, we'll sort you out kind of thing. And like school was great. I wasn't particularly naughty, but I did stupid things. I bunked off occasionally, get caught smoking. Yeah. But I was always open and honest with my parents about like if I was smoking and stuff, because all my sisters smoked. So not that they approved, but it was kind of like I didn't have to hide it really as much.
Yeah.
And
sounds like you got great parents. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, they were pretty cool.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah, they were pretty cool. Obviously, with my eldest sister, I think she's like slightly resentful of the fact that she got grounded for 3 months for holding her mate's cigarette, and I got grounded for 3 months for writing off my dad's car when I was 15. we always joke about that kind of thing.
Well, there's levels there,
yeah.
isn't there? And I guess you're the youngest, yeah? So your parents will have learned, because I know, for example, that my dad with me, when he had me, is very, very different to my youngest brother and my youngest sister, just because he's changed over a period of time. So maybe your dad had done that. He just changed, and so punishments were a lot less.
Very much so. Very much so. But yeah, like, I don't know. I always did well at school. I was always a B student, and that's just like a theme throughout my life. I've never really felt like I was particularly great at anything, and I've never been particularly bad at anything.
Right.
Just B's across the board. So
what does that mean? B's are good enough to me.
Yeah, no, they're good, but I never felt like I ever excelled in anything in particular. Like,
okay.
And I think for me, this is where a lot of my thinking around my drinking and that came in, because at school we had, well, up until sixth form, I only ever had like a very, very small group of friends, or just one particular friend. I'm not, bigger groups always, I don't know, I just felt like I didn't know where I fit in.
Yeah, I can understand that.
All of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I feel that sometimes now still, to be honest with you. My group of friends, if there's two of us, I'm pretty cool. We're bouncing together. But if there's 5, 6 of us, I tend to be the quiet one amongst them all. So yeah,
you kind of withdraw into yourself.
Yeah.
And so what was I going to say? Yeah, when it got to, I think it was probably like year 9 or whatever, I was the one who could hold her drink. I mean, year 9, looking back, that's quite young. Like, that's very young. But we were going out on the weekends drinking and smoking a bit of weed, and I'm staying at Gina's house, Gina's staying at my house, but we're staying at some guy's house, all of that kind of stuff. In my head still now, I go, typical teenager stuff, but I don't know if that's still valid to this day or not, but that's what we used to get up to.
Yeah, okay, no comment.
Yeah, but that's what we used to get up to. And I found my place in the social group because I was the one that could hold my drink.
Right.
And when I look back over my yearbooks, and I talk about this all the time, but in my GCSE yearbook, it was the ability to drink anyone under the table.
Right.
So I was 15, 16 at the time. And then the same for A level. It was something to that description of can drink more than any of the blokes. And she can hold her booze and all of that kind of stuff. Now at that point, my eating disorder I wasn't active in bulimia or anything, but I was very calorie controlled and the rest of it, I used to take my own lunches into school, and I'd have like minimal stuff. I don't know. I think a lot of that was to do with every girl in my family around me has always had an issue. No, I'm not okay, no, not issue, but weight's always been a thing in my house. Yes. Not like my mum would ever call anyone fat or whatever, but my mum's always been on a diet, and my elder sister's always been on a diet, and that's kind of filtered down from my nan to my mum. Yeah. There was a lot of issues there. And so I think being around a lot of don't eat potatoes because of this, and do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's probably got a bit of basis to do with it. But I've always felt bigger than all of my friends anyway. I've got a different frame. Now I know that everyone's different. But at the time, I always felt a bit bigger. Even in primary school, I could never fit into the summer dresses that all the other girls did. I used to just have to wear my grey skirt and the shirt, and they all got to wear those little blue and white checkered ones. So yeah, that's always been like, I think, in the back of my mind. And so I could drink, back to like school, I could drink anyone under the table. That was my badge of honour. So that kind of like, that just carried on going, isn't it? I did sixth form. Sixth form was really good. Got B's across the board again. So I got into uni to go do psychology at Bournemouth with one of my friends who was actually my group of friends at school. So that was a bonus, really, because I didn't have to do all that, make extra new friends. Yeah. But she was like a massive social bee. So she had instantly made all these new friends, and I was like, oh my God, where's my crutch gone? Kind of thing. But I kind of like infiltrated that gang
Yeah.
naturally, like
Yeah.
wormed my way in.
Yeah.
But no, it was a really good experience. But I just generally worked for all of it.
Mm-hmm. When you say worked like your like student job for it, or just worked your through your course, doing your coursework?
Actual like paid work.
Oh, right, okay.
When I was 18, I got a job in a restaurant.
Right, okay.
And then I got a job in a restaurant in Bournemouth as well. So I'd work in the day. I've always worked ever since I could. I used to work in the salon with my mum and stuff, just washing hair and sweeping and all that kind of stuff.
So you got a great work ethic then?
I'd like to think so, until I was drinking anyway.
Yeah.
And so I used to like work there during the day and then catch up on my uni work at night and stuff.
Where does that work ethic come from? It's got to come from somewhere.
Probably my dad.
Okay.
I think my dad kind of not distilled, but like put it in all of us girls that, you know, be financially independent. And I'm very much like that to this day. So yeah, I always worked. And I enjoyed work. I enjoyed hospitality. And then I got into a violent relationship.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
He was in the army.
Oh.
Yeah. But obviously as an 18-year-old, I was very much like, I'm dating a guy in the army. All that kind of stuff. He had some issues, and obviously I just thought I could fix him, kind of thing. And it just progressively got worse and worse and worse. And he ended up beating me up. But my sister was in Bournemouth at the time, and he got arrested and ended up pepper sprayed and all the shebang. And so it's just so much drama that at the time, I don't know, I felt like I couldn't step away from, because I was in love with him, you know.
And all that.
And whatever comes
stuff.
with it, But that really affected me for quite a few years. I took 3 months off uni.
In what way? In what way did it affect you? Confidence, self-esteem?
Well, the whole, I think the general stuff that goes along with a breakup.
Yeah.
But also, I feel it was just so much drama, and you know, like I just felt really crap about myself.
Yeah.
And like the world was ending and all of that. And
did you still love him? And
yeah. That was really hard.
Yeah.
And obviously because it was so dramatic, because my sisters drove down from London to Bournemouth, and he'd got released from the cells, and so came back to my halls, because he's from Manchester, trying to see me, and they've all like barricaded the door, like, you're not going in, and all this kind of stuff.
Was you trying to get through the door to get to see him?
Yeah, and all of this kind of drama and nonsense. But yeah, he kept trying to like contact me for years after that and stuff, and he was in my exams, and his like friends were ringing me saying how he's trying to kill himself and all of this stuff that like
all that emotional.
It was just it's horrid. Absolutely horrid. Anyway, so that kind of.
But at the time, it feels so real, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It just feels so real when you're in the play of that drama. And
Yeah.
It's just,
I mean, to be honest, I think that my life, I don't know whether I've always been drawn to drama, or I've watched too many Disney films or the rest of it, but that kind of like everything has to be so intense. You know.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well, it makes it's almost like it makes you feel alive if it's that intense.
Yeah. Like love has to be like sparks and all of this
rainbows
kind of,
and boom and this.
And it's God,
that's the potential for addiction, I'm telling you.
In it. But at that point, obviously, how old was I? I was 18.
So you nearly ruined your uni.
Well, he did the first year, and it kind of infiltrated into the second.
Right.
And
was he at uni with you then? Or
no,
you just met him?
No, I met him in London, but he would come down to Bournemouth to visit me.
Right. Okay.
At halls and stuff. And then the second year of uni, it was still kind of like in my mind, because my mum was still speaking to him. And because she felt sorry for him. He didn't have a relationship with his mother and all this, and my mum's very much
maternal.
Like, yeah. So that caused a lot of friction between me and my mum, and everyone went mad at my mum about it.
Yeah.
And I resented her for a really long time about that.
I'm not surprised.
That
would have been really challenging for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's, you know, that was many moons ago now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of done and dusted.
Cool.
And then what happened in second year? I noticed, actually, again, looking back in the piece of the puzzle, I used to steal bottles of wine from work.
Did you?
Yeah.
What were you was doing, working in the restaurants and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Primarily because I wanted a bottle of wine to have after work. Because at that point, I would have a bottle of wine after work.
Okay, so that's a justification, yeah?
Yeah, because I was on minimum wage and I
Yeah.
worked really hard. And so I deserved a bottle of wine after work.
That's right. She deserved it.
Yeah, exactly. This is where my mentality was going, because even at 16, because my mum would have a bottle of wine after work, I would have a bottle of wine after work. And my sister would have a bottle of wine after work. So there was all this kind of alcohol life going on. And that's just what we did. And that's what constituted as making me a grown-up.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And
it's normal.
Very much so. So while all my friends would go out to block party and get drunk and lose their shoes, I'd stay at home with 2 bottles of wine and watch X Factor after work.
How mature.
That's genuinely what I thought.
Yeah.
And that's just the way life was for me. In third year, there was a bit more of dabbling in like recreational cocaine, all of that kind of stuff. But I was just having a good time.
Yeah.
As it were.
Yeah.
And
like you should at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you should at uni. That's what you're supposed to be doing. My daughter's at uni at the moment, and I'm sure she's doing exactly the same thing, but just without the recreational drugs.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
Let's not say anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had a really good time. I started going out a bit more, and I'd go to work and I'd like come back, and everyone would come in at 4:00 in the morning and send me a message like, there's some lines up here for you. So I'm like, all right then. So I'd like trundle downstairs in my pajamas and have a party, and I didn't have to spend any money. It was great. But again, worked all the way through. I was really, really into my eating disorder at this point.
What was going on?
Fully bulimic. I didn't lose any weight. It was just, I think, the massive coping mechanism thing for me. What I found with the ex, with that abusive relationship, is that's when it really kind of like...
What took hold?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just so anxious all the time. Like it would just happen normally. And, so that wasn't... It didn't seem like a abnormal behaviour for me, though. I didn't question it. It just
was what it was.
Yeah.
It's just what you did. Just become what you do. Part of your behaviour, part of a coping mechanism, part of control. Yeah. I get it.
And I used to get pulled up at work about it, though.
Really?
Yeah, I remember.
What your manager or your boss? They used to.
My manager was all right. She knew. You can tell after a while, I think, with behaviours, because I used to eat a lot at work. And obviously, for me, eating disorder stuff has a lot more of there's a lot more of shame and embarrassment in my experience.
Yeah.
Around the food stuff than there ever was with drink. And I remember one of the chefs shouting out through the pass when I put some staff food through. It was only like a panini or something. He was like, what's the point in making her food? She's only going to throw it up. And I remember being sat there absolutely mortified.
Was you?
Yeah.
Was it embarrassing?
It was so embarrassing.
Yeah.
And my manager sat me down, because I used to eat off people's plates that were coming back from the restaurant and all of that kind of stuff. And she said, like, Laura, you're going to make yourself ill. And I just broke down and like crying and stuff, and we had a little chat and whatever. But it's that compulsion as well, you know. It was so hard for me not to do things like that, but so aware that everyone around me knew what was going on.
Yeah.
But that followed me through until nearly 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was very active for a long time. But again, at that point, I was still drinking a bottle of wine a night. Didn't see it as an issue. And then I met my ex. We were together for a few years. Drinking was a big part of his family. And we had a good time. But their family, it was very odd to me, being a London girl. They were quite well off. And so he messaged me and say, I'll finish work early, we're going out for dinner. And I'd be like, all right then. So I'd managed to get out of work early, and we'd go down to Christchurch Harbour because we're going on a speedboat to go to the Isle of Wight for dinner to get fish and chips, and like stuff like that was just mind-boggling to me. I felt like I was living in like 50 Shades of Grey stuff. Like it literally,
it's a different world.
It was just absolutely madness. And I was like maid of honour at his twin brother's wedding and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I told him I was bulimic, but I don't think he obviously understood.
Yeah, he wouldn't have.
No.
He didn't understand.
No. But I think for me, that was almost like a cry out for help in a way, because I trusted him. I thought we were going to be together forever and all of that, because I watched too many Disney films.
And you believe in love and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, me too.
I do.
Absolutely, me too.
And then we used to go on all these elaborate holidays, and we went to Mexico for his dad's 60th. And at this point, I'd already started hiding drink. Not necessarily hiding empty bottles around the house, but I'd have a bottle and then go, I better buy another bottle, and then I'll drink like a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And then
just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah.
And so all of that was already filtering in, and leaving work early to get home so I could have a bottle of wine.
Really?
And
what age was this?
21, 22.
Right, yeah.
No, I think it's about 22, because we'd moved in together at this point.
Right, okay. Where were you living at the time?
We were still in Bournemouth.
Right, okay,
but,
nice.
When we'd met, I'd had a flat with my friend, because I'd graduated, and I said, I'm not ready for the real world yet. I want to live in Bournemouth for a little bit longer before I move back with my parents and just enjoy not studying.
Yeah.
And I'd met him, and then 2 days later stayed around his mum's house every day for 6 months, even though I had a flat.
Yeah.
And I said, well, my lease is up, so we either have to move in together or I'm moving back to London. So we moved in together. We got a lovely little flat in this really nice part of Bournemouth in Talbot Woods. And literally like living the dream, really.
Yeah.
And still a bottle of wine, very much bulimic though on my days off as well. And then on my days off, it became like, I can have a drink before 12, it's my day off. And then so I'd start doing morning drinking.
Ooh,
not every day, but I'd have a beer or something.
Yeah.
Because it was, it's my day off, why not? Watching Only Fools and Horses, like, well, hey. And then things just carried on like that and got progressively worse. And I remember being at work, Googling on the work computer, how do you know if you drink too much? Just thinking like, because I should really cut down, but can I do it, can I not? And I thought, well, I don't really have an incentive not to because I enjoy it. And that's what my mum always says, I enjoy it, so what's the problem? And then we fast forward a few months and that. We'd gone on holiday to Mexico, and by this time I was getting regular shakes, like at work. Okay. But I'd put that down to my eating, not necessarily food to drink. And on holiday, I was quite poorly, and we were drinking a lot, like morning, noon, and night.
Right.
And we come back off holiday, and I was like, right, I'm going to stop drinking. I need a couple of days off. And looking back now, I'd never actually had an alcohol-free day probably since I was about 13, 14.
Right.
Not getting smashed every day, but
yeah.
And so I'd stopped, and I didn't know what happens when you stop cold turkey. I started hallucinating, and the sweats and the night terrors. It was atrocious. And I had a panic attack in Tesco's, and I rang him, my ex-boyfriend, and said, "You have to come pick me up. I'm not well." So on the car on the way back, I said, "You have to take me to hospital. Something isn't right. I'm not okay." And we went home, and he got his parents round, and I was like, "What are you doing?" kind of thing. And
what do you do that for?
I don't know, but very much in their family. Looking back now, it's if there's ever a problem,
it's keep it in the family type of thing.
You get rid of it.
Yeah.
Keep it in the family. You get rid of it.
Yeah.
And his parents came round, and I rang my mum and dad and was crying. And my dad used to run a drug charity up in London called WDP.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, "You need to have a drink, Laura, like have a beer or something." And their faces when I told them I had to have a beer, it looked like I was just trying to justify having a drink. Anyway, so I had a couple of beers and things calmed down. But the DTs got progressively worse over a few days. And it was awful, like absolutely atrocious. I've never felt so... I'd never felt so ill in my life up to that point. I have felt iller since.
Yeah.
And that was in the beginning of February. And then on Valentine's Day, so it was a couple of weeks later, he broke up with me.
Why?
Because he didn't love me anymore.
Okay.
So at this point, we'd had our own house, and we'd done a 2-story extension on this house we bought at auction and all the rest of it. But my name wasn't on the mortgage, and I'm very much a runawayer. So I went, all right, I'll be at your hair by tomorrow. So our 2.5, 3 year relationship was just gone.
Just like that.
Poof.
Kaput.
So I rang my mum and my sisters, and they drove down to Bournemouth, or my sisters did, and packed up all my stuff. And
God bless those sisters.
I know, they're brilliant.
They will go anywhere just to come and collect.
We used to call ourselves the Mitchell family, because that's how we operate.
Yeah.
You know, God help you if you mess with one of us, kind of thing.
Oh my God, yeah, I don't fancy that.
No. So they Sarah and Danny drove down to Bournemouth and packed up my stuff. It was so tragic, Markkus, because my cat, I was like, right, I'm taking the cat. So we got in my Ford KA, my sister was driving on Valentine's Day, at this point.
Yeah.
So we were driving out of Bournemouth and my car broke down with the cat in the back. And we were in Richmond services, and I didn't have cover. I thought I had cover. We were there for 8 hours on Valentine's Day, waiting for the RAC to come out. The cat had gone to the toilet in his box. So the people at the services felt so sorry for us. They let us go and sit in their stock room.
Yeah.
I started a couple of lollipops, obviously, and we sat there with 2 bottles of wine. And we eventually got back to Mum and Dad's, got towed, and my car had to get scrapped because the head gasket had gone. And my mum always says to this day, I feel so sorry for you, because that was the last part of your relationship with Sean, kind of thing. And yeah, I had to move back into my old room that was all pink still, with the pink carpet and the rest of it. And I was Bridget Jones. I was Bridget Jones for a few weeks. Yeah. And my mum used to get my little niece, who I think she was about 1.5, not even that at the time. She used to come bumbling in when Mum was babysitting and be like, no, 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 no. And I'd look at my mum you know that I can't cry in front of her. Yeah. Kind of thing.
Was you broken then?
I was fully broken. Yeah. I was so down.
I could imagine.
It was absolutely horrific.
I could imagine.
Probably one of the lowest I've ever felt, because it wasn't just that I'd lost John, but I was very close to his family. And then I'd lost my job, and then I got another job at that time as well, kind of mentoring troubled teenagers. Yeah. So I just had to message my boss and say, I can't come to work tomorrow. I'm never coming in again. Yeah. I've got to move back to London, kind of thing. And so I left all my friends that I'd acquired in Bournemouth over the 6 years, all of that kind of stuff. Your life
has just ripped apart. Yeah. In that instance, everything just changed, just gone. Like that. Yeah, gone. Boom. Yeah.
And but back at home, I was allowed to drink, so that was a bonus. And
when you say allowed to drink, what do you mean? What, you're allowed to drink when at your married, in your relationship?
I was, but he used to say you shouldn't drink every day, but he'd have a couple of pints every day. So I used to be like, why? Yeah, that's not fair.
It's hypocritical. Yeah.
But obviously, I think there was probably difference from having a pint or so to having a bottle and a half of wine. Yeah. Now I look back at that, I can see that, but at the time, obviously, I just thought he was being a bit of an arse. Yeah. And so I moved back in with my mum and dad, and I was talking to my friend Isabel. Isabel will come up a fair amount, I think, but I've known her since I was 2. My mum used to childminder, and we were close growing up. We've always been childhood friends, but we never used to spend all our time together, kind of thing. And she was in Australia and said, come to Australia. And I said, I can't just come to Australia. And she went, why not? I'm over here, it's absolutely amazing, and all the rest of it. And I thought, do you know what?
Actually.
Why not? Yeah. And even to this day, having just that slight change of attitude, it just is remarkable for me, because it's changed everything from people going, you can't just do that, you can't do that. I think, actually, I can, and I will.
Yeah.
And so I got a job back at the old bar, one of the old bars I used to work at. And I worked out how much money I was going to make and all the rest of it. And I went, yeah, all right, I'll fly out on the 1st of June. And Mum and Dad came back from work. So I got my visa sorted, because I've always worked. I've always had my money.
Yeah. Honourable shout out to your daddy. Really planted that seed in you early. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. So, I did that and went, Mum and Dad came back from work. And I went, I've booked my flight. And they were like, what? And I went, yeah, I've booked my flight. I'm going out to see Isabel. And they were like, oh, right, kind of thing. They weren't obviously as excited as I kind of thought
they might be. Yeah.
But they could obviously see my illness and my eating disorder and my drinking and the rest of it.
So they probably got a little bit of concern, a little bit of worry.
Yeah. And so I worked in the bar. And in that meantime, I'd trying to prove to my mum and dad that I'm all right to go and live abroad. I'd had a house party when they were away, fell down a flight of stairs and cracked my head open.
Great way of proving that.
Oh, literally. I had 2 full-blown black eyes. I've got like a scar here. It's obviously gone throughout the years, but there was 5 stitches. There was blood all over the carpets. It was really bad. And so I'm like, I'm fine. Of course I can go to Australia. And they're like, no, you can't. And I'm like, well, chase me kind of thing. I was very determined. And so I flew out to Australia. And Izzy came and picked me up from the airport with her boyfriend, and stayed at theirs for the night. And I had a seizure.
No way.
Night. Yeah, I had a seizure on my first night. Her mum's in fellowship, and so she rang her mum because she knew I had a thing with drink, but I don't think anyone kind of expected it to be that bad.
As bad as it was.
Because I hadn't been hallucinating or anything, so I didn't realise. I didn't know what happened, really. I just woke up and the paramedics were on their way, and apparently I'd swallowed my tongue.
Oh, my God.
So her boyfriend had, got it out and stuff. And in Australia, ambulances aren't free, so I had to send my dad, a $600 bill. And I remember they said on the phone, if you don't come home now, we're going to come and get you. And I was like, I've just got here, and Australia is a very big place. You have to find me. I was like, I am not coming home. And for me, I was like, looking back now, I still hold my ground with that, because I wasn't planning on coming home at all. I was going to build a whole new life in Australia.
Right, okay.
But I felt like I needed to do that. I wasn't ready to kind of get help and the rest of it.
So what happened? What happened after the seizure?
Izzy then got ill with strep throat, and so she was in hospital. And after she got out of hospital, this was in the space of 3 days. I was supposed to stay with her for about a week, about 5 days or something. So she got out of hospital and basically said, you can't stay here.
What the hell?
Yeah, she said, you can't stay here. And
why?
Because it was not good for her health. And obviously her mum's in fellowship and the rest of it. And so I think along all the lines, now I look back and see that it was going to cause her more harm than good. So,
but you just got out. You only just got to Australia. What?
Yeah. So I rung up my hostel and rebooked. So I went there early, a couple of days early, and the hostel I was staying at had a bar. And at this point, I knew.
Jesus.
No, but at this point, I knew that I had to drink every day to not have seizures. So that's what I did. I didn't get drunk every day. I had a job within 2 days. In a restaurant.
No surprise.
In a restaurant.
Yep.
I've always been good at hospitality.
Yeah.
Not always ethically good, but I've always been good. I've always been great with customers.
Cool.
And so I had a job within 2 days. And so we were allowed to drink at the bar. It was 24 hours. And I remember one of the people saying to me, oh, you can't buy 2 beers. You're going to work. And then the other woman went, she has to drink, otherwise she'll get really ill. So I had a couple of beers before I go to work. And then I'd have a bottle of whatever I wanted whenever I got home. And it was all right. There was a few of us that drank quite alcoholically.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I did for a few months until I was. Oh, do you know, I love them to this day. They were so great. It was like an Irish family, and I got a call this one day from the guy who ran it. His name was Peter, and he said, "Laura, we've seen you drinking on the camera." Because like it was the one time that I'd actually drunk on shift, and I was so shaky behind the bar, so I'd like cracked a beer, and he said, "Now we were going to call the police and make an example of you, but I want to know actually, is it a problem, or did you think you could get away with it?" And I said, "No, it's a problem." And he said, "In which case we won't press charges or anything. My mum was an alcoholic, and you know there's help and all this kind of." He was so compassionate, so it makes me emotional actually. It was so lovely, and I was like, "Can I come pick up my wages?" And he went, "Well, we don't know how much you've been taking." And I was like, "Oh, but it was only that one beer," because it actually was that one beer.
Yeah,
but obviously, I was like, "No, I'm actually just really grateful." And I tried to get another job. I did get another job, but the hours weren't there. And I'm very much aware that you have to do 3 months of agricultural work to get a second year granted. So
is that what it is? Is that the rule in Australia?
Yeah.
You got to do agricultural work.
Yeah, so you like picking fruit, packing, and working on farms, all that kind of stuff. So, me being resourceful, I saw that this guy who I'd met in Ayia Napa like 3 or 4 years previous was in Sydney. And I'd only just briefly met him because he was working in the bar and he gave us some shots, and I was like, "Oh, that's cute, I'm going to add him on Facebook." That's literally all it was. And I saw he was in Sydney, so I started messaging him. I was like, "Do you need to do your agricultural work?" And he said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Should we do it together?" And he went, "Yeah, all right." So I flew to Sydney.
Where was you staying originally?
I was in Melbourne.
In Melbourne, right? Okay, cool.
So then I flew to Sydney, and we drove all the way back down in his 4x4. He's really into his cars. He's a proper motorhead.
Right.
And did some like seed planting, which was like ridiculous. It was just the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life. In like, because what the farmers had done, they didn't want to fork out on the actual machinery, so we were doing it by hand, literally just poking these seeds in the ground. Anyway, it was awful. And so I then looked on Facebook and we saw that there were 2 farms next to each other furthest down in Melbourne, doing dairy farming. And so he went on one farm and I went on the other. So I milked cows for 3 months.
Okay.
That was really, really good. I gave me a quad bike. I had the best time ever. But one thing I do remember, because Australia was phenomenal. The reliance, obviously, on drinking.
Yeah.
And it was New Year's, and my mum and dad had rung me to say Happy New Year, and obviously there's a time difference. It was something like that, where I was on the phone to my dad, and I only had one beer in this little farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. Couldn't get to a shop, not the rest of it. And I remember being on the phone to my dad, crying for about 3 hours because I was too scared to go to sleep in case I had a seizure and died in my sleep. And that was really, obviously, you can imagine.
Wow,
scary. How devastating that thing is, just going, "I've only got one beer."
Imagine what your dad would have been like
I know.
on the other end of the phone.
I know.
Yeah.
And it was, obviously, at the time, I didn't really consider any of... Obviously, I didn't want to worry them, because I was like, when I was sober, I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, or if I've got enough drink, yeah, I'm fine. But no, when that supply ran out, I was like...
The anxiety.
It was really bad. I'm surprised. I don't know how. I mean, this is where like higher power stuff comes in, I swear. But yeah, like I then came out of there and moved to Bondi Beach, because everyone who backpacks in Australia has to live on Bondi at some point. And I got another job in a hotel, restaurant bar thing. And
whatever happened to your friend?
She was back in Melbourne doing her thing. I didn't talk to her.
Oh, all right.
I didn't. Yeah, I cut all contact for a very long time, actually.
Right. Okay.
And so I was off in Bondi, working in this hotel. Had this like holiday romance with this guy who was Australian. It was fantastic. Very embarrassing though, because obviously I was just constantly drinking, and I'd stay at his, and he'd come back from work, and I've ordered like 2 crates of beer, and I've drank them all in his flat and all this kind of stuff. And he'd just look at me like, what is going on?
It's not normal, is it?
No,
it's just not normal.
And I'd find all the blind spots at work, and be like, oh, I'm gonna go get some drinks to top up the fridge, and I'd like neck half a bottle of wine in the fridge, and all this just loads of madness that life you don't really need. And I remember saying to everyone in my hostel, like, you can have the shirt off my back, you can have my cigarettes, because I was only the only person that ever had money. Everyone else was skint. So, because I'd always worked, and so I always used to say to them, you can have the shirt off my back, you can have my fags, whatever, but do never touch my alcohol, because I will have a seizure and I will die. And that was my life for like 6-7 months, until the panic attacks started getting worse, and the shakes, like the DTs, would get more and more frequent and harder to kind of control. And I'd got this other job, because you can only work with one employer for 6 months. So I'd got this other job at this other hotel, and I kept calling in sick. And I was at work this one day, I'd gone in, and I started having a panic attack, and I said to the owner, I was like, I need to go home, I don't feel well. And he went, you seem intoxicated to me. And he went, come in tomorrow and we'll have a chat. No thanks. So I got a taxi back to my hostel. I got a refund on the nights that I'd already paid for. And I rang my mum and dad and said, I'm coming home. So I got a taxi to the airport.
What, just like that?
Yeah. Taxi to the airport, and flew back. But
Jesus,
obviously there was a massive 17 layover in Singapore and all of this. There was like a whole other drama that went with the flying. But I'd made friends with this guy who was also flying back to Heathrow. So me and him travelled together.
Yeah, as you do.
But yeah, I came home, and that's when we started trying to really get help.
Oh, man.
But I got a job again on my birthday, back in a bar. And the same stuff was happening, just the constantly drinking, keeping that cycle going, working around the clock. I was working at one point like 60 hours a week.
Oh, my God.
But I had a constant supply, so it was all right. And then I was dabbling more in cocaine after work with the regulars, and putting myself in really stupid situations, I think. At one point I got like sexually assaulted by this bloke, because I was out drinking and he had loads of cocaine, so we were all just chatting and stuff. And then it was like, we'll go back to an after party and stuff, stuff like that happens.
This all those kinds of madnesses happen when you're with the consequences of substance abuse. Sometimes it's not right, it's not good, but it I hate to say it, sometimes it comes with the territory. I've seen these situations happen with so many people, and obviously working here, I've heard of these situations happen for so many people.
But I was like, I mean, that was really shit. I remember I came back and I said to my mum and dad, like, this has just happened to me. And they didn't really say anything. But I think at that point, I was just all over the place anyway. But yeah, it was very surreal, because I was like, did that just happen? Like, or whatever. Like, did it? Am I really high? I don't know. But at that point, I'd go to work, and then I wouldn't want to stay at home. I'd always ring up one of my guy mates and just stay around theirs. I mean, I've grown up with like 30 lads, all the guys around the area, and so I just ring one of them up, like, can I stay at yours tonight or whatever. In fact, that night I did my head. The day after, with all my stitches and black eyes, I climbed a tree and went through my mate's window because he wasn't answering the phone, because I didn't want to go home. Like,
why not?
No particular reason. I think it's the fact I couldn't sit with myself.
Yeah.
You go home and then you're like, I'm back in that room. And
restless, irritable, and discontent. Yeah.
And, it'd be horrible.
Yeah.
And that's just what I did every night. I'd go out and I'd drink and I'd stay at a bloke's house and the rest of it. And I eventually got sacked from that job for drinking. They all knew I was drinking.
Right, okay.
But they never really had proof. I think by that point I was always constantly on a certain level of
topping up.
That was like a normal thing for me to kind of be.
Yeah.
And then I got sent a video on CCTV of me drinking.
Really?
And I couldn't argue it. But at that point, Mum and Dad had already kind of decided that I was going to rehab.
Okay.
So I went to a rehab in Ipswich for 4 weeks, and that was good. I say that I had a seizure on my first day, so I had to do 10 days detox in Ipswich Hospital. I had no idea where I was, obviously, and then I enjoyed treatment there, but again, I got sober, but that was about it.
Yeah.
And I came out and I tried AA and the rest of it, and nothing was clicking for me. And so I'd relapsed on Christmas Day and ended up in hospital again on Christmas Day. And it just kind of carried on, but it just got worse. And I was in and out of hospital every week.
Really?
Yeah, seizures.
How old was you then?
About 24, 25.
Wow.
No, a bit older than that. I came in when I was 26. I must have been about 26.
Wow.
And what was I going to say?
So yeah, you kept having seizures around that Christmas period and stuff.
Yeah, and at this point we were trying to get help. So the place in Uxbridge is called Arch, and it's like a walk-in centre.
Yeah, I know it.
Oh, you know Arch?
Yeah, I know it very well, and also had a client recently come from there as well.
Nice.
Yeah, who's done really well. Yeah,
good.
God bless Arch, because they've really pulled some funding out for people to get them out to the seaside.
Wow,
yeah.
This was it. Where my mum and dad's house was in New Denham, it's a 10-minute walk from Arch.
Oh, right, okay.
So I used to go to Arch and go to Smart Recovery and all the rest of it. And I used to see this girl called Katie, and we'd try community detoxes.
Yeah.
And the Papronex injections.
Oh.
And, and it just, nothing was working.
Yeah.
And after a few years of trying that, 2 years we were with them, they, because we were trying to do all the paperwork and stuff, and I had to prove that I really wanted it.
So you had to jump through hoops.
They then said that after we'd filled out all the paperwork, that I was outside the catchment area, because Uxbridge is a Hillingdon borough, and I was technically in Bucks. So then my dad, we had to start the process all over again.
So where did you go to? So they
I
did
can't
all
remember what it was
that's madness.
Yeah. So we ended up going, it was in Bucks, but it was in High Wycombe.
Yeah.
So we had to, I can't even remember what it was called, to be honest.
We used to have a care manager. What was her name there?
And there's Vicky, it's my manager.
I can't remember her name. Carry on, Denny.
I don't know.
I can't remember her name. Anyway, tell me about.
So my dad ended up retiring early to make sure I went to all of these appointments and groups.
Your dad did what?
Yeah.
He retired.
Yeah.
He retired to support you, to make sure that you went to all these appointments.
Yeah, because there was no way that I could go. Again, this wasn't really computing at the time, but that going to Uxbridge I could have done on my own, but getting to High Wycombe, it's a half an hour taxi journey, and Mum and Dad were not putting me on a bus.
No
put
chance.
It that way.
No chance.
So Dad used to take me to all the appointments and the meetings 2-3 times a week, and sit out in the car for an hour. And
well, that's dedication, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
and
love.
love at the same time.
Yeah.
And
then we eventually got told I might be able to come. It wasn't here. It was a Broad Reach. Told we could maybe go to Broad Reach, but then it was closing, and then we were hoping to get into Broadway. It was. I don't know. I feel like I've kind of skipped over a lot of the drama of it all, but it's very fuzzy. You know, a lot of it was very fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of anger towards my mum. A lot of anger because towards the end she was my drinking buddy.
Right. Okay.
She used to be like, "Oh, just pop over to the garage and get me a bottle of wine. You can get yourself one." Because she didn't want to go to the shop.
So she was enabling you.
Very, very much so. Until things got really bad, and then Dad would used to buy bottles of wine, but he'd keep them in the trunk of his car. And it was in the last good, like, probably 9 months or so. It was only meant for medication purposes. And that's the way I saw it, you know. I didn't like drinking.
Yeah.
I didn't want to drink. It was horrible.
It was just to keep you alive, to be honest, wasn't it?
Yeah, and
that's the thing with alcohol is, you know, alcohol, if you stop drinking, will kill you.
yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah, and my hair had been falling out. And I don't know, mum and Dad were quite good at hiding a lot of the, I don't know, I'm going to say worry, or maybe I just wasn't aware of it. But they picked me up a lot. And I remember the way I used to feel, especially towards the end, was that, like, I couldn't describe how I used to feel. I used to... All right, this sounds so stupid. I've never done sign language. I don't understand sign language.
Right.
But I used to try and sign how I used to feel to my parents.
Really?
Because I couldn't put into words how I felt. And I used to write down, and I used to scribble, like, just like, fuck, in like capitals, and if I'm having calmer days. Just to get things out. But I didn't, there is no way to put into words how I used to feel. And that still to this day blows my mind a little bit. Because I was just so angry, but I don't know what at. And I say this quite a lot now as well. Like, I used to sit in my old bedroom, and there's my graduation picture on the wall.
Yeah.
And I used to look at that and, like, sob and the rest of it, and just think, like,
I can so identify with that.
And I used to just look at that and go, what happened to that girl?
Yeah, it's just a lost life.
Yeah.
There's so many hopes, dreams, aspirations. You've got your gown on and everything, and then it didn't turn to anything.
Well, kind of.
Tell me.
But I used to look at that and, well, no, that's what I looked at the time. But now when I reflect back on that, I looked all right, but I wasn't all right.
No.
Because I was drinking it, and I was very bulimic. And all of the rest of the stuff that comes along with that.
Yeah.
I was constantly trying to live up to expectations, you know, like, I never felt comfortable in my own skin. I still can struggle with, like, I don't know how to be around people. I'm all right with that aspect of me now. Because I'm just a bit socially weird sometimes.
Yeah.
And I say stupid things.
Yeah.
But back then, it was just...
It's hard.
A lot harder.
Yeah, it's hard.
A lot harder.
I guess you've got a lot more acceptance around yourself now.
Yeah,
and that's just who you are.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's like my shyness. I used to hate the fact that I was shy around people and tried to hide it well. But now I just don't care. I'm shy. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
It's just who I am.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Yeah.
So,
Broadreach. You was going to Broadreach.
I was going to Broadreach.
And then what happened? Dun, dun, dun.
Well, this is it. Like, everything turns into a bit of a blur. That was it. The Bambi moment.
Yes.
The Bambi moment.
Yes.
At this point, I was just having seizures quite a lot. And every time I'd go into hospital, because I was just being ill all the time, I wasn't keeping any alcohol down. So Dad used to say, sat in the waiting room, pretend to have a seizure and we'll get seen quicker. And a couple of times I actually had seizures, do you know what I mean? So obviously just trying to put a bit of a lighter spin on things, but obviously they were absolutely beside themselves.
Yeah.
And I was at home, and at this point, like, I was so fed up of disappointing everyone. And I never stole. I knew where Mum and Dad kept the alcohol stash, but I'd never helped myself. I would have rather have a seizure than keep disappointing them. Mum has always said a couple of things growing up. and I find this really important for me, was she can deal with anything, never get addicted to heroin, never bring the police to her door, and never make her bury her own child.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the three things that I vowed to never do. And that bury her own child was probably the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main things that kept me alive, to be honest, because I didn't want to let her down.
Okay.
Not like that. Anyway, so I was at home and I was trying not to drink. We had the drinks diaries and all the rest of it. And I'd had a seizure in the downstairs loo. And apparently Mum and Dad just heard like a massive thud, and Dad like wrenched the door open. And I twisted my ankle, and it had done a full 360 or 180. Anyway, it was buggered. And I went into hospital, and I'd fractured it in 3 places.
Mm-hmm.
And they agreed to detox me.
Yes,
They agreed to detox me because otherwise the doctors had told me not to stop drinking because of the amount of seizures I was having.
Mm-hmm.
But it was going to take up to a year to get a bed in hospital to do a detox.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like I don't know, bittersweet in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I detoxed in hospital, and then the day I got out of hospital was the day I came here.
Yeah, because I remember now. That's what it's all coming back to me, because you came with your leg all in plaster.
In a pink plaster.
Yeah. Cool.
And I think I speak to someone who went here actually, and he said, when you first came here, you were bouncing off the walls. And I was like, was I? No, not me. Because I was sober when I came to treatment.
Yeah.
Okay, I might have still had some what's it called?
What behaviours?
No, the medication they put you on.
Oh, what?
Fluorodoprox.
Yeah, that, which is
Librium.
So you were here, famous cast, pink cast.
The pink cast.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't remember a lot of my first couple of days.
You was in group 3. I remember
was always
that.
in group 3.
Yeah, in the what was back then, well, it was originally the non-smoking coffee lounge.
The non-smoking coffee lounge.
Yeah.
What do I remember? It was just odd, to be honest. I remember being really annoyed at one of the medical staff because my sister had bought me a colouring in book that was a swearing one.
Oh, yeah.
And she took it off me and told me that wasn't appropriate.
Yeah.
I was trying to think, to be honest, Marcus. It was always quite intense, isn't it? Like the first couple of weeks. Because my brain always, from me coming in here, has kind of skipped over the first little bit until Pete.
Yeah. Well, it was a long time. It was a long time ago. But I remember this. You definitely came in under the old regime of the warning system, and certain things that couldn't happen.
Points do not mean prizes.
Yeah, the point system.
Yeah.
Etc. So you was definitely under that regime, and it was intense, wasn't it? It was so there was 3 groups then.
Yeah.
It was definitely. I'm not saying hard. It's hard anyway, isn't it? Treatment's hard regardless of what. Yes.
I had a good time, to be honest. I always say I had a good time. It's like I enjoyed school. I love learning. I love learning about myself, and for me, it was a bit of a playground. It was like school, to be honest, where you have your rules, you follow them, and if you don't, you get told off.
Yeah. Well, that's what rehab's like, really. Rehab's like a school for emotions, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
You learn about your emotions and how to deal with certain situations, and you've got a number of situations that happen that present themselves with, the different people's behaviours colliding against each other, and then you're dealing with all the emotions of it. That's what rehab's really about.
Yeah. It's like with group, I mean, obviously, I was in group 3 with Chrissy.
Yeah.
Love Chrissy. Didn't at the time. I remember in my second week, I'd got away with not really talking in group, and she got me, and that was it. The spotlight, the whole group was about me, And I left that group and I thought, you bitch. and then the next day, the same thing happened. And she turned around to me, and this will always stick with me. She went, "You're just a scared little girl who wants her mum." And that comment, because it's true, you know, like my mum's and mine relationship, and that there was that disparity between having my mum and having a drinking buddy and the rest of it. And you know, she got that straight from the off.
Wow.
But
honourable shout out to Chris. Honestly.
Always love you, Chrissy.
Honestly. Honestly, amazing.
She handled me very, very, very well. And, you know, she's... All the staff, to be honest, were very kind, compassionate, but funny, you know. And for me, the funniness is, like, so important because now looking back, you know, having to be able to have a laugh and showing that you can have a laugh in recovery is monumental.
Yeah.
And you do hear it a lot in the rooms, like people say, "Oh, I never thought I'd laugh again." I genuinely didn't think I'd ever laugh again. And now I'm more of a bigger kid and laugh more
now than ever.
Definitely.
Mad,
and I'm all right with acting like a giant child half the time. But it's just knowing when and where it's appropriate.
Yeah, the appropriateness of it. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, just really coming back and embracing our inner child.
100%.
And I love the fact that you say that, because what I always say to people that, you know, come into rehab, you will have laughter, belly laughs, you will build relationships with people, like, you know, you will have some soul laughter, you will cry with laughter in some situations where things are just so funny. Do you know what I mean? But also you will cry in pain emotionally, because, you know, you will have to deal with some stuff that are really difficult and challenging and emotional. So, you know, you're going to cry either way, whether it's cry with pain or cry with laughter. But at some point, you know, hopefully, you know, tears are cathartic, aren't they? So,
very much so.
Yeah.
And there's something like, I remember Tony. Do you remember Welsh Tony?
Yeah, of course I do.
I remember he. I was trying to do my step work. I couldn't get my head around it. I couldn't get my head around step 2. And he took me into the Reiki room and he sat me down and we had a proper long chat. But you know, I didn't ask for his help. But it was just like, I don't know, that always sticks with me because
intuitively
he's the only, I don't know, he explained it to me in such a way that really I thought, I get it, you know. And, just the flashbacks to the boundary contracts.
Okay, so we're there now. We're here.
Is it.
So
like, I was leaving after that happened.
Right.
I was going to leave. I rang my dad and I said, "You're coming to pick me up," and he said, "No, we're not." And I was like, "What?
Right.
What do you mean?"
Hold on. So we need to fill the camera in. Pete.
Right.
Okay. Pete arrived.
So actually, I arrived after Pete.
Yes.
Pete was here 3 days before me, and I don't remember the first time I saw Pete, but I remember being in group, and I remember thinking, God, he's really broken, you know, because I have the massive mask on of being all over the place, very loud, very barriers up, and you know, comedy's always been my thing. I try to be funny anyway. Not that I try, I am naturally funny, but you know what I mean.
I have to agree.
And and I remember he was very shaken and the rest of it, and we just started chatting this one day, and we were colouring in. And we used to do our little colouring in together. And people were saying, "Oh, you're spending too much time together." And I've always just got along with blokes. Yeah. But I did like him, you know. There's just something that drew me to him. And
sorry to interrupt you. I remember, I saw coming back to me. And you two had the same counsellor as well.
Yeah, we both had Chrissy. We were both in group 3.
Yes.
We got moved eventually.
God, there's a higher power in this whole process. Keep going. Yeah.
And we were colouring in.
Yeah.
And we'd already been told at this point that you've been noticed as spending too much time together. But that's all that was said.
You need to separate out. Yeah.
And he went, "I don't see the point," because he went, "I don't see what the problem is, because we're just friends." And I like, you don't know this, It's going to be on YouTube now.
Okay.
But I looked at him and I went, we both know it's more than that. And he just kind of nudged me, and I looked at him and I was like, cool. And then like kids, like literally at school. So we were just finishing our colouring in. And then...
we both know it's more than that. Get in there, Pete.
No, I said that to him.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. You said that to him.
Yeah.
He's in there.
And...
in rehab.
Yeah.
Oh, wild.
Yeah, madness. And, you know, like shortly after that, we got given the boundaries contract.
Yeah.
And we weren't allowed to sit next to each other. He eventually got moved groups, but that was
a little while. That was a little while after. Yeah. That was when you two were in.
No, it was before secondary.
Was it before secondary? Yeah.
And yeah, I remember like if we come out of class, or not class, come out of whatever, and there'd have to be at least one person in between us in the corridor, and we weren't allowed to sit at the same table and all the rest of it. We'd only allowed to say, literally, I remember this saying, exchange pleasantries, and that was it. And he drew the short straw because we both said, because we had to announce it in dining room, didn't we, that we were on boundaries. And so he went, I'll do it, because I really didn't want to do it. So he stood up and announced the boundaries and stuff. And things for me, like, everyone used to talk about it. Everyone used to talk about us and try and get us in trouble for stuff that we hadn't done. But, you know, I liked him enough to do what was right by him and stick to those boundaries.
Yeah.
But I think having that ingrained thing in me of not wanting to let my parents down and do what was right for me, because at that point I didn't really care as much about myself, you know. I didn't want to be ill anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
But I didn't. If it was down to my own devices, I'd probably still be out there at that point. But who knows? But
at that point, what I was starting to see with you in treatment is that you was getting better. So your leg was better. I can't remember if your plaster was off then, but you were starting to look better. You were starting to talk about your bulimia and your eating disorder a little bit more. It was things were improving, and the relationship just felt like it was like it had become about the relationship. And I remember just being a little bit fearful and a bit anxious about it all. And then I just remember speaking to Chrissy about it, and I just said to Chris, I think we've got an opportunity here, because you two started to take it seriously, as far as I remember.
Take what seriously?
The boundaries thing seriously.
Oh, yeah.
And then you two were both going to secondary.
Yeah. We came and spoke to you. We're like, Markkus,
yeah.
Is this going to be an issue?
Yeah. Well, in old Broadway, it was an issue, but I realised that we had an opportunity here to make a change. That if you two held the boundary and didn't do anything, didn't get into a sexual thing,
no,
in rehab, it would be literally a game changer. It would, and Chris and I discussed it. There was resistance about you two going down, because you were in what is now the GB unit. That's where they do. You two were there by yourself for a while.
Yeah.
Do you remember I used to come down, and I think I used to come and pinch fags off?
Yeah,
do you remember? Yeah. So nobody knew that I smoked except for you, and I'd have a secret fag.
Yeah. Or a secret 10.
Yeah. So
I owe you 6. All right, Markkus.
So, and then I remember having to sit down with you and just say, please, you don't know what this would mean. If you two get through this, I can then change the way that we deal with relationships at Broadway Lodge. It was that fundamental, and and I just had to manage the staff's feelings and emotions around it, because it was really challenging in the backgrounds, because that's just not what normally happened. Is you'd go off to another rehab, or Pete would go off to another rehab, but that just used to create so much resentment and anger, but you two just I can't even tell you what that did.
I think, like, for our relationship, we both wanted to get better, and we knew that there wasn't going to be an us if we both didn't stick to it for starts, because we would get discharged and he'd be off back to Ipswich, I'd be off back to London or whatever. But also I think giving originally the boundary contracts make things like you're almost in detention at school. For me, that's how it felt.
Yeah.
You're being naughty and therefore you're getting a bit punished or whatever, but we're all watching you. But I think when we had that discussion and we almost got given the opportunity to look at the bigger picture, to actually this is bigger than just don't have sex in rehab. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Seeing the bigger picture then actually became more of an incentive.
Yeah. And I'm really glad you recognised that, because there was so much of a bigger picture.
No, I know, but it wasn't just like necessarily. Right. It took us out of those children roles well, I only speak for myself. Took me out of that children role of, well, let's be a bit naughty and you know, like let's hold hands or something underneath the table or whatever.
Yeah.
To actually, if we want to do that, we can do that later.
Yeah.
And I think that's also that kind of attitude filtered into our relationship anyway, because people are like, oh, you're not all like fuzzy-duzzy. And we're like, not in public, not in public, but we don't feel the need.
Yeah.
You know, we used to communicate just via looks over like a lounge.
I get that. I get that.
So I think that was a great learning curve for both of us. It's emotionally as well, and also having Chrissy and you there, because you two were the only people that we talked to about this.
Yeah.
And having the same counsellor, it's almost like a relationship counsellor.
Yeah.
Because she used to, obviously, if I'd go in and say like, Pete's really pissed me off or whatever and whatnot, and you'd look at your own part in the relationship, which obviously you do in recovery anyway, in any relationship, let alone a romantic one.
Well, so. You'd hope so. I mean, I don't think I ever learnt to look at my own part until I got into recovery, to be honest with you. It was always the other person's fault.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
We've grown a lot. When we first got out of treatment, it was a lot different. So it's taken a little while, but we can move beyond the instant reaction and move away from the anger a bit more and just say, look, right, you're angry, go away and come back when you've calmed down. And vice versa, as condescending as that might sound, we recognise that actually we're going to get nowhere.
Yeah.
Which I think without being in rehab, we probably wouldn't be able to do.
Exactly.
Whether or not we were addicts or not.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So that's always helps, I think.
If ever I say it once and I say it again, I'm so glad that you recognised how that it was this what you were doing was much bigger than yourselves, and that you two were the game changers for how we now deal with relationships in treatment. And we've had people that have got into relationships in treatment, but what we've done is, you know, we've asked people to be honest. Don't have, obviously you're not going to have sex, but you know, if you like each other, then we can work with the feelings around it. But without you two doing that, it would never have happened.
No.
And the staff were able to see, so I was able to present to the staff, see it can work.
I think it depends, really. I mean, me and Pete, people say that I'm the female version of him. And when they first said that, I was like, what? Like, no. Kind of thing. But that's, I don't know, it just works for us. Anyone that comes out of treatment and says to me and Pete, oh, like, I'm going to get in a relationship, we're the first ones to say no. Like, not like we're better than you or anything like that, but we're a fluke in our eyes kind of thing. And I think that being in treatment, we both had the opportunity to choose. Maybe it was like exactly at the right time to choose what we wanted more, recovery or this. Yeah. And we then had to say recovery. And we both actually did say, even though we weren't allowed to talk to each other, did say, if you get kicked out or I get kicked out or the rest of it, because obviously I knew my bulimia was an issue, the other person still has to stay, you know. And so we we've always spoken about that kind of stuff. And even now we still have to make the choice of, if one of us relapses, we're done. Because I love you, but I love me more. And that's the way it has to be. And so, yeah, that's just kind of like how we kind of function on that.
I've just recognised, literally in talking to you, I've just recognised, although you two were getting into a relationship, even in treatment, you chose recovery first. The relationship was kind of second until obviously you left here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, that's what you did. And I just really just clocked it then with.
Oh, Markkus, a bit slow on the uptake.
I am sometimes. I am sometimes. Do you know what? It's like I said, Broadway going through some transformation, and that was a big one. That was a big one, and so I've been able to then bring about some more changes as a result, and they've just kind of all, the 12 steps are about change, and I've been able to bring a lot of change, literally from that moment until today. So, you and Pete know I love you both, and just really, really grateful for what you've done. So, what have you done since leaving? Tell me about recovery.
Well, so after we left, obviously me and Pete got the flat, and I was still very much bulimic, and this was also another turning point for me. It was like not necessarily a light bulb moment, but he said to me, we can't have kids ever if you're still doing this. And I thought,
did he?
Yeah. And I thought, fuck. And it's like, well, it's true, because I wouldn't want to have kids if I was still like doing stuff like that. And this light bulb moment kind of clicked in my head, where I was like, I was trying so hard to curb my eating stuff, and my brain went, but you're still absorbing loads of calories even though you're being sick. And I just suddenly this one day went, what am I doing? I just went, I can't do this anymore. And I'd hit my rock bottom with it, 100%. And this was a big part of me claiming back a bit of self-worth and about recovery, because I said to Pete, and we sat down, and I was beside myself, and I just went, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna do it. And I went, I'm gonna probably put on weight. I'm gonna be grumpy. I don't know if you're gonna find me attractive anymore. I'm going to be miserable with sin. I don't know what I'm doing. And if you can't handle that, then we can't be together. And I've never, ever kind of done that, because it's always been the blokes first for me.
Yeah.
And he went, yeah, all right. Pretty much. And I haven't been sick since. And it was bloody horrible. And because obviously I'm very much active in it for like 15 odd years. Before that, even with calorie counting and stuff. And I remember, like, again, eating disorder stuff is so close to my chest. It's a lot more emotionally bound than it was with alcohol, even though alcohol brought me to my knees and it was horrific. We'd gone out, and he was like, should we get a Casper's? And I was like, you can, I won't. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, because I didn't want to hold him back from doing stuff. So we got him an ice cream. And this sounds so trivial, I think, to a lot of people who probably don't relate to it.
Yeah.
But we went back up to the flat, and I went, can we not eat it in Casper's? And he went, that's fine. So we went back up to the flat, and he went and ate it in the living room, and I had a shower, and I cried my eyes out.
Oh, bless you.
Because it was, I don't know how to explain it, but it was like grief for me. It was like someone had ripped my stomach out. I'd felt like a massive sense of loss. And some of that, like, it's not fair business and all the rest of it. But I thought, if I have that, I will engage in that behaviour. And I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And so I did. And stuff like that used to happen all the time. And I'd be there, and I'd see people like eating chips and stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. And what I used to do was, because at this point, I'd engaged with the services. And they told me that there was a 2-year waiting list because we'd literally come out of treatment, went straight into a lockdown.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'd been out for about 3 weeks. And there was a 2-year waiting list with steps. Vitamins wouldn't touch me because my anxiety was linked to my eating disorder. So I basically was told I was on my own. And so I tried OA, but the OA meetings are shut down. And I just turned around and went, all right, then I became a petulant child, but in a good way, as I put it. And I went, I'm going to swear, is that all right?
That's absolutely fine.
I went, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, and fuck you. I'm on my own. And so I'd get up really early every day, and I was doing about 8 hours of yoga a day, just moving, just to keep my mind occupied and stuff, anything apart from binging. I wouldn't eat over 1,200 calories a day, but in my mind, that was better than eating and throwing up. As long as I was keeping food down, that's all that mattered. And then that kind of like slowly increased, and the anxiety, and I went from yoga to like doing HIIT and like strength and stuff.
Yeah.
'Cause I'd never been into sports really. So I started doing stuff like that, and then I got a nutritionist in the January, and so like we're building up my metabolism and the way I think about food.
Your relationship with food.
He's got an eating disorder background anyway, so it was almost like a sponsor for me. He was around the clock. I'd message him at midnight, and he'd reply. And so it was like very much changing the way I thought about food, and now I eat like 2,000 calories a day, sometimes 3,000 if I'm having a particularly tired, podgy day, and I want to.
Yeah.
And
but the most important thing is you're not throwing up.
Yeah, and I enjoy it, you know.
Yeah.
And I work out, and I still keep to a routine. I mean, I do have my anxieties around it still, to a certain degree, but nowhere near what I used to. Like the other week, Pete come back from the gym, and I was like, I can't remember what I'd said, but I'd eaten something ridiculous. Like I'd had like 3 chocolate bars, and I just had like a high calorie day because I calorie cycle. And he went, "Oh no, like you're right," because in his head he still gets paranoid. He gets worried about me.
Gets anxious, yeah.
And I went, "Yeah, no, I'm boasting about it. I've just had 4 bowls of Cheerios, and I don't care."
Brilliant.
Like I'm not worried about it, so you don't need to be worried. And
the behaviour's changed around it.
Yeah, and like the way I think about it, it's like I messaged him because I'd had a bagel and I got this like Lindt chocolate bunny and I'd melted it on it, and I went, "I've just had this. It was better than sex." and he went, "Oh yeah, that'd be perfect for after a workout." And I thought, and I wrote back and I went, "I haven't done a workout. No, it's perfect to have now." And it's just little things like that, you know, that keep me going. Actually, I'm pretty good. And Chrissy did say to my mum and dad once, actually, she's a determined little madam when she wants to be. Yeah. And at the time I thought, what? And I thought, actually, I am a determined little madam.
Yeah. Well, it's taking you to Australia. It's, you know, it's kept you working all through your addiction. It's taken to university. I know you're back at university again. Yeah. So what's going down?
That year I did my level 2 counselling and done that, and then I did my level 3, and my anxiety was really it, for some reason got really bad. It was because we lost our universal credit. So I was like, right, I have to get a job, and Pete said, "I've got the money to support us," and I said, "No thanks, I'll get a job." So I got a job at Treats. And my anxiety was getting really bad, and it was just filtering out everywhere, to the point where I didn't want to leave the house. And then this one day I woke up and I just went, hold on a minute, and I had a word with myself, and I went, I did not get sober, I did not go through all of that to be too scared to leave my fucking flat. And I did. I just looked at myself in the mirror and I gave myself a telling off.
Yeah, give yourself a good talking to.
Yeah, and I went, I'm not fucking having that. And I do, you know, I'm quite stern. And so every morning when I'd wake up, and actually when we did the recording here last time with Sharma, I got some tips off her to help with my anxiety. And I used to get up every morning and sing, "I am strong, I am invincible, I am woman." And I'd go about my day, and that's how I used to get up every morning. And it worked, so that's good. And so I done my level 3. And I got accepted to do a degree in counselling and couldn't get the funding because I've already got a degree. So then I got in to do my level 4 at Bridgewater to do counselling.
Honourable shout out to Bridgewater. I love them down there. my peoples.
Max, is it?
Yeah, Max. Love Max.
And I kind of thought, like, if I'm not 100% set on counselling, I don't want to do a level 4 and then maybe a 5. I'm not even sure if it's running at the moment. So I thought, actually, given, because I've got other health stuff that goes on and the rest of it, and I don't want to give up working. And and part of it, if I'm totally honest, I don't want to get up extra early to get the one train into Bridgewater. If I miss that, then I'll be an hour late, and it's a long day.
Yeah.
And, I don't think that would bode well for my mental health. But that's just me.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I agree. Punctuality is important to me. I hate it.
No.
Does my head in if I'm late.
No. So I thought, actually, if I've got the capability of doing a master's, why not do a master's? So I'm now doing a master's in mental health psychology and wellbeing. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm thinking maybe something in HR, or I want to do something to do with people. If you could earn really good money in hospitality that isn't working all around the clock and weekends, I would do hospitality because I love working with people.
Yeah, the customer experience, yeah.
I'm so good at it. That is like the one thing that I feel really confident in doing.
I have to say I'm incredibly proud of you.
Oh.
You're not the same...
mess?
No, you're not the same. I hate saying you're not the same girl that came here, but you're so much more. But we've still got that childish element of us, you know. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But you're not the same woman that came here.
I should hope not.
No, absolutely. You've just grown, and it's just amazing. And both of you, obviously, I'm incredibly proud of. And I need to ask you 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
2 questions. What advice would you give to somebody that was coming through Broadway Lodge? How would you help them to get through it? What could you tell them? Give them some advice.
Trust the process.
God damn it.
What?
Trust. Absolutely.
No, and I think that is it. Because most of the time, like, I want to say people, but come from a place of I. You sit there and you're like, what is the point? Like, I don't understand why I have to get up and go to group. Why am I doing these meditations when I'm not religious? Like, what is the program all about? It's God. Why do I have to go to meetings? You know, if you just be open-minded is a big one, which we know. Honest, willingness, and trust the process.
Trust the process.
And good things happen. Not all the time. And I don't want to give anyone that facade of life's rainbows and butterflies. It's not, but I think giving the tools and learning the tools you need to actually cope a lot better than you did when you were sober. Yeah.
A lot better than substance misuse anyway. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't promise that your life's going to be amazing. We just give you back a life that you will have some tools to deal with your life better than you certainly was before you came here. So,
and I think it also gives what I've learned, and not being an inherently bad person, is just to treat people better. And you get better things in return. And I'm not saying that it's a two-sided process, but, you know, I enjoy not being horrible and not letting people down and all the rest of it. And, you know, I like who I am today. I don't love myself every day, but I definitely like who I am. Good. Because I know that I'm not a horrible person.
I'm glad you do.
Exactly. And I can do that without thinking, oh, I'm egotistical, or the rest of it.
You can say it with your chest slightly, with a little bit of pride.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
100%.
Good. And last but not least, what tips would you give to people for recovery?
Recovery in general?
However you see it, whatever you see recovery as, because everybody's recovery is different. It's individual to everybody. Not everybody's recovery is the same.
Check your motives. I mean, in terms of like, when my sponsor always says to me, like, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that has really helped me
Mm-hmm.
and clawed back a bit of self-worth through it, really. But that only works if you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So
check your motives.
Check your motives.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be causing harm to anyone.
Absolutely
but also,
not.
if it's going to cause more harm to you, you know, you need to be valuing yourself.
Yeah.
Before you can help other people.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you for coming. Still rolling with hot trainers. I love them, you know me, and trainers. So yeah, no, thank you for coming down, and God bless you. And
you're welcome.
Thank you for coming and sharing your story with on the podcast for other people that, and you know what I think is so important, just been talking about your bulimia.
Yeah,
and the impact that had on you, because there's so many other people that come in here with eating disorders that, you know, you can recover. You know, you can live a healthy life. You can sort yourself out, you know, with the determination.
very much so.
Cool.